Pasa baby won't get a deal. Pasa baby won't get a deal. Pasa baby.
No trust in police on these streets. No justice, no peace on these streets. No trust in police on these streets. There's no justice, no peace on these streets. We live in the divided states of America. We die in the divided states of America. We live in the divided states of America. We die in the divided states of America.
Hey, what's up, everybody, man? Listen, I want to say thank you to everyone who's been checking out this show, first and foremost. But today, this is episode 2 of the Black and White, the movement in Black and White, I should say, special. And this has been an incredible ride at this point. And it's so much has happened. But today, we're starting out with some new guests, a new show, and this is episode 2. So let's get things started. I have Natacha Pannell to my right here. And I have my man, Ainsworth Minott from Englewood. Both are from Englewood and Teaneck, basically, from where I'm from. And this show, we're going to be discussing some things that are like, I could honestly say, we're going to be discussing some very serious topics, some good things. But we're also going to be discussing some things that we are very positive about. And hopefully, you guys will be too. Now, how are you guys today?
Feeling good.
So give a little background to the audience. Tell the audience who you guys are today, man. What's going on? Go ahead, ladies.
Thank you. My brother. I am Natacha Pannell.
Yes.
And I am the sister of Philip Pannell, who was shot in the back with his hands raised in the air 30 years ago.
Okay.
This year would be actually 31 years ago, so this April 10th. I coin myself to be an activist.
Mm-hmm.
I've been, pounding the pavement ever since I was 13. Still doing so, not more so in the public, but like the backdrop, the back scenes of
yes.
things, still involved. I have a 21-year-old son whose birthday is the 28th, and he'll be 22. I can't believe I'm gonna have a 22-year-old. But yes, my son will be 22 this week. I had a birthday the early part of this month, so I turned 44.
Congratulations.
Shout outs to me still being here because a lot of people didn't make it. So I'm thankful and blessed to be alive. I'm thankful and blessed to have this platform. And thank you for sharing.
Thank you for coming on. I appreciate you. And Ains, my brother, what's going on with you today, man?
How are you? Thanks
good.
for having me here. My name is Ainsworth Minott. I'm from Englewood, New Jersey. Now I'm an activist, teacher, coach.
Is it weird to say that right now?
Father, yeah, it's kind of weird because I didn't see any of this stuff coming, to be honest.
Right.
You know, so this is a big transition for me. It's a kind of like a brand new life in a way. It's like a reincarnation and starting over, something totally different.
Got you.
That I expected to.
Listen, I want to tell you guys, I appreciate you guys taking the time to come on my show. That's first and foremost. I thank you guys because you guys are definitely featured in the book. And I appreciate you guys and everything that you guys have done because this has been a wild year. But a wild last year, I should say, at this point, because we're moving into a new year. But I want to ask you, let's first talk about what was 2020 for you guys in the beginning. Before everything got started, what was 2020 like for you? Which one? Whoever wants to answer.
It's like clockwork. It's ping, ping, ping. Yeah.
Bring the physical mic closer.
Yeah.
Me? Okay.
Yeah.
like this?
Perfect.
Okay,
Right there.
cool.
Brian, ask the question again real quick.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. So, I want to say 2020 has been a crazy year for everybody. But what was 2020 like for you guys before? I guess you could say before we got started, before things got really out of control with everything that happened in May.
Well, the beginning of 2020, I was working in the EPSD school system with autistic children.
Yes.
As a behavioral assistant. So I did that for quite some time now.
Mm-hmm.
And up until March, we all know when the whole country, quote unquote, the world shut down, I was out of work for quite some time. And that was, I think, the brink of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and things like that. So it's almost like my brother here, Ainsworth, said, it's almost like I was thrust back into, rallying and marching and the movement, so to speak. So, because me personally, I feel like my whole BLM
Yes.
started back in 1990.
Yes.
When it wasn't coined BLM. So it kind of took me by storm in a sense. But like I said, I didn't miss a beat. I was out there. Then this brother came from out of nowhere, I'm going to save the community, and do everything I can. So I started supporting him and attending some of his rallies, and from that point on, going to New York, Jersey, and things like that. So,
Isn't it? It's a wild thing that you had all that happening, and then all of a sudden your life gets switched around very quickly. Ains, for you, I know this was unexpected. We were unexpected to be here because we were pretty much you were working as a teacher, if I'm not mistaken,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And you were just working regularly.
Working as a teacher.
Working regularly. Now, you work with kids.
I work with kids.
You work with kids, but you're a black man. You're a black woman. You also have been around children practically your whole lives. You've been dealing with working with kids pretty much. And then this happens. These things begin to take shape. Tell me, what was life like right before everything happened? Was it like everything was pretty much going like as per usual? But then the pandemic happened. I know that kind of threw things off for both of you, really.
I'm going to be really honest. Things weren't actually going as usual. Things started out, even before the pandemic hit full-fledged, things were a little crazy for me personally.
Mm-hmm.
My mom in January, she just had her third open heart surgery. So I was in New York, leaving work every day, going to Columbia Presbyterian to make sure my mom was okay. Like literally almost for a couple of months, 2 months in straight.
Right.
So I was dealing with all of that stuff, teaching, coaching at the same time at my alma mater at Dwight Morrow. So I was already entrenched deeply, emotionally, with a lot of personal stuff going on. And then two of my best friends with the pandemic,
Yes.
lost their lives. My friend Gib.
Yes.
And a couple months later, his stepbrother,
Right.
my friend Charles Burke,
Yeah.
both to COVID. I know Gib, his passing, we didn't state it as COVID, but it was
Right.
early.
Right,
It was
right.
early on when everything, we didn't know as much. This was in November.
Mm-hmm.
He came home. I talked to him on a Friday night all the way to 12:30.
This is November 2019 that you got
Yeah.
sick?
Mhm.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
We were dealing with all of this stuff
Mm-hmm.
and then losing both, literally my two best friends,
Mm-hmm.
over 30 plus years of friendship. These are probably one of the two only people that I've known for this long where they can walk into my parents' house without me being around.
Right.
My college friends know them.
Mm-hmm.
Chuck's my son's godfather.
Yeah.
Gid's been with me since Colgate, coming up there to visit me. He's like a big brother to me. I couldn't have lost any more tighter people that I've been around all these years. And this was right before,
Things
all
got
this
crazy.
got crazy.
Yeah.
And then things got even crazier with George Floyd. So for me, it was a lot of emotions going on, and I look back at it now and I tell people, as much as I'm, involved in the movement now, for me to be doing this, to me, I really think God had to create the perfect storm to get me off the couch.
Now, speaking of perfect storm and things that were happening, we were all in lockdown in March. I remember being sick, and I remember March happening. I remember being like, God, man, I hope things don't get crazy. I remember the whole toilet paper thing happened, and things got ridiculous at that point. But then things began to transition into another level of crazy because we had a president who didn't know what he was doing. And I'm flat out going to say he didn't know what he was doing. And we're moving in a state that we just don't, there's so much, we're not sure about much. And then all of a sudden, racism and police brutality begins to rear its ugly head again. And we're stuck in this place where we're at home and we see what happens to Ahmaud Arbery, and then we see what happens to George Floyd. And that's basically the tipping point. I remember clearly not knowing what was going on. I remember looking on my social media and all of a sudden popping up on my social media, I'm looking at this man being choked to death, basically, and being abused. Take me there when you first saw it. What was your first reaction to it? Were you just physically and visibly harmed, or how did you feel at that moment? Speak on it, y'all. Whoever feels comfortable, go ahead.
I think initially just watching, well, let me back up. Hearing about it, it was just like, are you serious? Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, as many cases as I heard, you know, within the past like the 20, 30 years, this case right here in particular, I was just like blown away.
Right.
And I couldn't believe that it happened, for one, and then for two, that someone filmed it.
Yes.
You know, and that's a whole nother story, like as far as how I feel about the visualization of like, you know, people filming things like that and then us watching it and then just having it be in our psyche. You know, it kind of desensitizes us in a sense because we're constantly seeing it.
Yes.
And I think that's all a part of the quote unquote master plan.
Yeah.
You know, to me, you know, and then us being caught in the matrix or whatever, if you will, not realizing that we're just going to keep on posting it and like, oh, did you see this? And did you see that? And, you know, so all those feelings I actually thought about like right in that moment of just learning about it and hearing about it.
Right.
So it made me angry as well. And then it made me to the fact where I couldn't really, I felt like useless or hopeless.
Yeah.
Like not again, you know, so.
Did it take you a while to comprehend that this was actually really happening at that moment? And what was your first, did you call someone or did you talk to someone right away, or what was it like for you there?
I called my mom. I called my son. You know, because I know that I wanted to know their reaction and how they felt, and to talk to them about it, how I felt. You know, and get it out, get those feelings out, and then you know, it was like a step-by-step process for me, to be honest, because I was like, oh wow, like I was enraged, so I was wanting to go out there and get back in the streets and go, because people started rallying like right away.
And that brings me to Ainsworth, because
So
how was it for you? Yeah.
Like, boom, it happened. I'm like, who's this Ainsworth guy? I have to meet him.
Where did you see it, if I may ask?
I saw it at home.
Yeah.
I was at home when I saw it initially with my family, but what I saw initially the first day, I only saw the one angle.
Okay.
Which only showed the one cop in the front. I didn't see that the other cops were on the other side of the car, on top of him as well, until the next day. Okay. So the first day, I'm kind of like, okay, maybe that cop needed to be on him because he was the only one. But when I saw the next day, and I'm looking at like, wait a minute, you guys could have let him up. The other guys, you could have got the knee off his neck and held him there without him losing his life. And for me to see people there live watching it helplessly, couldn't do anything to help this man, that bothered me. To see the paramedics come, the way they treated him, like he wasn't even human, that bothered me. You know, and then to know the fact that my son is sitting there, and like, I don't hide stuff from my kids. I'm watching TV. He's gonna be watching it. Because we need to be awoke. And we need to be, even at 7, he needs to know what's going on. So he was watching the news. He understood that, you know, the police, and even in my household in general, you know, there's certain things we have conversations about how to act when you're around the police, and, you know, certain etiquette to keep ourselves safe. So my son is aware of this stuff. But when he saw that, the trauma, I realized, was a lot bigger than what I thought. So the following day, my wife takes him to Van Son Park. He's riding his bike because he wanted to ride his bike. I guess there was 2 cops up ahead walking.
Okay.
So my son was ahead of my wife. He whipped his bike around, right back to my wife in tears, crying because he was scared of the cops. And this is from what he's been seeing on TV. And that day, I think it was a Thursday, and I thought to myself, and someone made a post on IG, and it was like, you know what? Everyone's gonna repost, and then tomorrow, everyone's gonna stop. And I said, you know what, Ainge? You're not gonna be like everyone else. You're not gonna keep reposting. And I said, you know what? I don't have to be a superstar. I don't have to be famous to make a change. And those 2 days, I started out, I called news media outlets, I did my homework, I got the permit, and I just said, we're marching, thinking maybe we'll have 50, maybe 100 people, over 1,000 people showed up.
Yes. Why do you think that that at that moment we were able to assemble that fast? Because I remember being there. I was there visually, and I remember for myself, it was the first rally or first march I ever attended that I was not there just as a participant, but I was there as a photographer. Like, we didn't know each other until really the rallies came around, until we started marching.
That's when we all met each other.
Yeah. The marches, the first march in Englewood was a trip because it was like, I hadn't really been outside. You know, I was woofing. Like, I had had a haircut in like 3 months. So at this point, I look crazy because I'm already bald, and then all the hair's like, I look nuts at this point. We all kind of were all woofing at that point. We were all like, you know what, screw this pandemic. We outside for this point. What was the energy like for you guys? Because I know for me, the energy was like on 1,000. The amount of energy that we had pent up because we were all sickened by what we saw. Speak to me about, like, how'd you feel when you saw the people? Tell me how you felt this first time around. A little closer.
I was just like, wow, okay, everybody's ready. You know? It's like, it's time for a change. It's time for us all to come together and not allow this to happen anymore. You know, like Ains said, he has a son. I have a son. You know, many of my friends, they have sons, you know, and daughters as well.
Facts.
So I was out there for my son, my friends' sons and daughters, and all the little kids. I was just, you know, I was like, okay, now's the time. It's going to be change, you know. Seeing like little 2 and 3 year olds out there with their little signs and things like that. It was just, you know, I think I cried at one of the marches. You know,
you definitely did.
I was just so blown away by the unity and, you know, and the diversity. You know, it was like not just black people, it was white people, Jewish people, you know, Asians, Indian people. It was like so many people at the rally. So, and then you had the clergy people out too. So
when you got organized and you put together the first one that we did, that we were all there, and you said yourself, you're like, yo, I'm no, this is not who I am, but we're going to do this today. And I was gung-ho about it because I knew, like, this has to be done. Tell me, what was your nerves like that day? How did you feel?
The first one, not knowing exactly, you know, how many people was going to show up, you know, just how people would, you know, grasp what we're doing, you know, and it was my first time doing something like that. So I'm gonna be honest, it was a little nerve-wracking.
It felt like the first time you stepped on the football field. If y'all don't know, Ains is a hell of a football player. Just FYI, but continue.
But yeah, that's just like, you know, playing a football game. I had those butterfly feelings in my stomach.
Yeah.
You know, I was, you know, my nerves, I was feeling it because it was such, you know, a big thing going on in the country, and I felt like, you know what, we got to do something in New Jersey.
Facts.
You know, I was watching what was going around, and I was like, you know, when's someone gonna do it? And I said, you know what, let's not wait. I can start. You know, and so to really, even now, I looked at the video maybe last week, and just watching the video now, it's still I can feel the emotion from that day, and just seeing the Englewood, Lafayette, just the people overtaking the streets, just flooded with people. It's one of the most beautiful scenes I've ever seen in my life, to be honest.
And that was it, and it sparked off a chain of reaction because then we had Teaneck right after that, and then we had another Englewood, and then we had a couple more scattered out throughout the whole area of Bergen County. And for us, it's different. You know, that's the reason why I wanted to put together my book, is because I wanted to be able to show us as what we look like here. Because everyone is going to be focused on the big cities and everything else, but we need it here. Did you start to see things happen in LA? You started to see them happen in New York. You started seeing them there. Did you start to feel like real change is happening at that moment? How was your feeling at that point? Because we went through these couple of marches in the very beginning, so communities are beginning to be built. How did you feel about the cohesion through the people and everything? Did you start to feel like you were starting to build a community? Was a community beginning to get started in there? Did you feel that?
I most certainly did, and you know, in a sense. And then as like the rallies started progressing, and it was more and more rallies popping up all throughout Bergen County and the state of New Jersey, I started to hear that like there were like police officers that were dressed in plain clothing, who were all like coming out to the rallies just
Yeah.
to kind of like see what was going on. And then I felt like some people, to be honest, I'm gonna be honest, that they were just out there kind of to just promote whatever it is they were promoting, or just to kind of be seen, and to be nosy.
Hey, listen, we went to
be honest,
we went
like,
to
I don't think
we went to
they were actually there for the movement.
Yes. Yeah, I went to one rally. I remember going to one rally and it was I'm not going to mention no names, but let's just say it happened and it was terrible what happened. We were out there, everybody was out there. And this guy came up there and he came out there and he came up on stage in front of everybody at this moment. And the people were just, they didn't want to hear from someone who wasn't the mayor at this time. And he told us to shut the F up.
Oh,
and this happened in Englewood.
I was like,
but we're not going to mention no names. But this happened in Englewood. I'm taking photos, and I looked at this dude like, "Are you out your mind?" I had my stepmother there, my sister was there.
Yeah.
I had family members. You're not going to tell nobody in my family to shut the F up if you ain't part of this family. So no matter who you are, and for him to tell the entire people that were there for the rally to shut the F up. Like, that's ain't what we here for. Or are you here just to grandstand because you saw what Ainsworth did the week before? So now you need to be there.
Yeah, I was going to mention this.
Did you ever start to see, because I want to talk about our community and how we begin to build up a community, but I also want to talk about, some of how it's separated and some people are not for it. How did you feel about how things you guys made friends, new people? How did you feel about that? Did you feel like we were finally starting to connect with one another again? How did that feel for you guys? Speak to it.
I think in the beginning, it was really great to see so many people from different towns, people of different backgrounds coming together. But from that point now, I've learned so much more, and I've learned that people come out, but everyone has their own little motivation why they're out there.
Correct.
And we were talking about it earlier about even in the 60s and when the movements and they were starting stuff down, people use this movement for their own personal interests.
We level it. People will leverage it out.
Right.
Leverage it out.
People come around the movement because they, want to do other things in their life, and they're trying to use this as a platform.
Right.
You know what I mean? To do their own personal things, and that's my problem with this.
Yeah.
We need to stick to why we're doing this.
Yes.
And leave our own personal stuff outside of this.
Did you guys feel good about the people that you were meeting and you got to spend time with them? What kind of community did it begin to spark for you? Did you be able to make real friends and these people, I really want to roll with these people for a little while and see what we can do as a community? Did you start thinking about organizing and setting up your own kind of foundations and things of that nature? What kind of things were you starting to set up and look at as far as what you could do organize-wise for the community? Go ahead, both of you. Y'all go ahead. Any of y'all feel, whatever y'all feel. Let it go.
Well, I'll just be really brief. My mom and I started the Philip Pannell Foundation like about a year or so prior to. So, we were just getting that off the ground and not really promoting that, but that's what we were. Once we went out and we were speaking at different rallies and engagements, that's kind of what we went under, the Philip Pannell Foundation, just to remind people who we are and things like that,
Especially, I see that when we were in TNEC, I saw that was prevalent.
Yeah,
it was prevalent there, and it was prevalent in every march that I saw that you guys did. I remember I went to there was a rally on Juneteenth in Hackensack, and I was there for that. You spoke there, your mother spoke there, and it wasn't like the most packed thing, but you could see everybody that was there wanted to be there, and we needed to be there. And I think no matter where we're at, we still all need to be there for one another. And like you said, you had that foundation there, and then you saw things start to grow from there.
Right.
Ainsworth, yourself, I remember you said you were trying to put together some more things community-wise, and you started to try to work with the community.
My thing, the marches were good, and that's the way to just raise awareness on the streets. But just like I told people from the start, you have to get behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And that's why I started, with reaching out to the mayor of Englewood, Mayor Michael Wiles. I met with the chief and the deputy chief of Englewood Police Department, Chief Suffren, and Deputy Chief Alstead. We had a meeting. We talked about, the body cameras. We talked about community policing.
Yeah.
And all the things that I felt that we needed, that we could work on to help our community better.
Yes.
And I met with the fire chief as well.
Yeah.
You know, I reached out and I went to the local businesses because first thing that when the first march is, everyone was nervous because they were looking around what was going on the rest of the country.
Yeah.
Store owners and businesses on Palisades Avenue were scared, thinking we were going to break their windows.
Mm-hmm.
I literally went store by store and just reassured them.
Yeah.
You know, that this is what we're doing. This is why we're out here. We're not out here for destruction.
Right.
You know, so these are the things outside of the marching that people don't necessarily see that I've been doing.
Yeah.
You know, going to the local food pantry on Tuesdays, helping them give out food, taking groceries in my own truck and going to deliver them. You know, stuff like that you don't see.
Right.
You know, and just from me doing the marches and just from organizing and bringing up these topics, I can tell you right now, that alone has created change in Englewood.
Yes.
We have never been together as a community and discussing and talking about these issues, to me, since I've been there, like we're doing now.
Gotcha.
So even on that small scale, to me, that's already showing some change and growth in our community already.
Did you guys, you saw the change in the community, but the community is not just people of our age or even closer to our age. We're talking to the young people. How did you guys see how did you see this movement affecting the young people? Because you guys both said you guys worked with kids and worked around children. How did you see it start to affect the kids? Especially because you're a mom, so you have a young child. So how did that come about? And how did that look for him? And how did it look for his friends and stuff of that nature?
Well, I know my son, he definitely was affected by it. You know, he shut down completely. And when I say shut down, he just kind of gave up a little bit of hope and thinking like, okay, Mom, the streets are not safe. You know, unfortunately, he was feeling like his age range, all they think about is killing one another, and they glorify. Not every single young person thinks about that. I'm not boxing them into one category.
Right.
But a lot of them, they do. And it's because of various reasons, like influences in music and the culture and things like that. So that was one thing. And then the police, you know, he was like, okay, I'm a young black man. I'm 21. I feel like if I see the police and he has dreads.
Yes.
So he would say, okay, I fit the profile. And that hurt my heart. I'm like, what are you talking about, Armando? What do you mean you fit the profile? And he was like, Ma, I fit the profile. So that's why I wear my dreads a certain way, and I wear it up in a ponytail as opposed to wearing it down, because if I wear my dreads down, then
sad
they
world.
The police may think that I'm this way or that way, and they might mess with me because I have my dreads hanging down. You know, so it was a lot of different emotions. And I just wanted to go back. The world started saying Philip Pannell's name again. Like, it wasn't like my mom and I started the organization, the Philip Pannell Foundation, which is a 501c3. We didn't come out. We started it just to memorialize my brother and honor him and offer scholarships to like Teaneck High and Dwight Morrow High School students. So then, like on the brink of George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, everyone started like doing all of these murals, and you know,
I saw murals in Edgewater. Not to even cut you off, I saw murals in Edgewater, for God's sakes.
Yeah. Like, it's so many different murals popping up with Philip Pannell's name.
Yes.
You know, and not to get off topic, but like Ains was saying, I felt the need to kind of get more involved too, and the backdrop of it all, not just rallying and protesting and speaking. I wanted to do more. So I joined the BLM mural committee in Teaneck, which was the first Black Lives Matter mural that was placed in Teaneck. It was the first in Bergen County. So so I was a part of that, and then just to come to find out, 30 years later, the Teaneck City Council, they didn't even want my brother's name to be on the mural. So it was like, wow, what a slap in the face. Like, one thing I refuse to do is allow anyone to put my brother back on trial again, you know, and then also to not honor the fact that he was a 16-year-old kid that didn't deserve to die that day in that manner that he died. It was no cause for it, period. So it's like there's no argument, no discussion, no debate whether his name should go on a mural. It wouldn't be a Black Lives Matter mural without a Philip Pannell, without a Ahmaud Arbery and a Trayvon Martin and a Yana Jones and Corinne Bailey.
Look how many names we just had to name right there.
That's what I'm saying.
That's ridiculous.
I have like 150 names on deck.
And we didn't even talk about Rodney King and how he was beaten on national TV from this point on, and we're still here still here.
So it's just a lot of emotions, a
Yeah.
lot of mixed emotions. And like my brother said, he was like, I call everybody brothers and kings, and because that's all we are. We're kings and queens.
Yeah.
So like my brother here said, it's like a lot of things other than rallying and marching, that we can do. You know? So
I think it's important that we don't lose sight of that this is an ongoing thing. And just because we got a new administration and we got the orange clown out of office, his legacy is still there. 71 million people voted for this man. You know what I mean? And
That's crazy.
And the fact that you have to talk about these things is ridiculous. Like, you have to talk about these things, like, and look how you had to ring off name after name after name. Ains, you had a lot of kids involved and a lot of young people involved. You're an older man. You know what I'm saying? You're in a stage where you're like you're an OG now. You're OG status now. You gotta accept it, bro. You gotta accept it. It's no more. You're over 35. It's over.
I'm still trying to get used to it.
So you're OG. So a lot of people respect what you have to say. You're working in a situation where you're being looked to be a leader just because you started a rally. You went out there and started a march, and now people are looking to you to lead. That's pressure. It's a
lot of pressure.
When you're talking to the young folks and you're dealing with the young folks, what was it like for you now? Because you're no longer just he's a PE teacher, he's a coach. That's what you were. Now you're not that anymore. Now people are looking to you to give them orderings and direction and stuff of that nature. How did you manage that, and what kind of effects did you start to see on the kids that you were around?
One thing I was really trying to focus on, which you said, was the kids. And as far as Englewood, one thing when I started back in May, I wanted to reach out to, the students in Dwight Marr. And I reached out to the kids, and now they have a Black Student Union, which is the BSU. And we made sure, they had advisors and got them, situated and together, because, we need to have that foundation at that level, so when they get to my age, they'll already understand, and this is something that we can create so we can pass it down.
Yes.
We don't need these gaps anymore, because I think from the 60s, the last time we were really out there, I think there's been a big gap in the movement and our concern, and I think even with my age group, we can't just take the movement and run with it ourselves and not engage the younger generation, even the older generation above me, because we need to bring everyone together. And to me, my big thing when we started out, I invited a lot of the Black Student Union students. We had breakfast. We sat them down. We asked them what they needed, to make their situation better in Dwight Marr. And we've been trying to work on it, to make everything a little bit better for them. We want to know what's their needs. What can we do to make your guys' situation better? And then they want to get organized. So we made sure we got them an advisor. We made sure, we set up, now they started a youth NAACP chapter as well with Mr. Carter. So that was a huge thing, to just get them engaged, get them involved, and have them know what's going on. Because if they don't know what's going on and we're not here, who's going to pick up the baton after that? Right. So they're the key to this. They're the key.
The children are the future. They are the key. We've been saying that for God knows how long. What kind of effects, what affects the adults will eventually affect the children. None of us have had easy lives. There is an easy life for everyone. That doesn't really exist. Even if you're rich, you still can deal with depression. Things like that can happen. Mental health. One big thing with the pandemic was mental health and where we were at. But, I'm going to be quite honest with you, speak quite frankly. I'm a Black man who has had his encounters with the law. And I've had my levels of back and forth dealing with people in the law and just dealing with people, period. When it comes down to trying to get people to see that what they're doing isn't right. There's a certain level of PTSD that comes from that. There's a lot of mistrust that we have with law enforcement in this country. And me personally, in my run-ins, I've been handcuffed and put on a divider in the middle of the turnpike before. So things like that have happened. I understand issues with law enforcement, period. What kind of things in your mind do you think you could work through, that we could do as a community, to help try to work these things out? Because we're in a situation now where, people say we should heal because Biden is now in office. you know, there is no way we could just start doing that. But there has to be a start to trying to work things to another level. What kind of things do you guys think that we could do as a community to heal ourselves, and then maybe try to bridge those gaps that we may have? Either one, go ahead.
I think what Ains is doing, you know, with the food pantries and things like that, that's important. You have to be grassroots, you know, in order for it to work. You know, people need to see that you're doing and that you care and things like that, you know. Also, I feel that we need to start running more for local seats, state seats, you know, federal on a federal level, you know. All it takes is for us to go about the proper steps, you know, apply, you know, put the application in, get your petitions in, and boom, you know, develop a campaign and a strategy. And they need to start seeing more of us in office, you know. That's, to me, that's like one of the only main
Black faces
things.
matter.
Yeah, definitely. And like, for one, not to cut you off, because I know you're about to speak. But one of my friend's daughters just became a Teaneck police officer, and she's like around my son's age, you know.
Ooh.
And back in 1990, there were not even one female officer out of like 89 or 90 officers. And there were only like one Spanish officer back in 1990 on the Teaneck police force, and there was like maybe 2 black officers, and the rest were predominantly white. So to see and to witness one of my friend's daughters, you know, becoming like a female and then black officer made me really like, I have goosebumps talking about it. Like, it really made me like, wow, yeah. And Teaneck, New Jersey, that's a big step.
It's a very big step, because in you know, where we're at, it's continuously very lily, and sometimes it's very difficult to see where we have a place in that, you know, black or brown, you know, and it comes into that situation. Ains, what do you think?
It's too bad we got this pandemic right now, but I really believe the communities, you got to have community meetings more. You got to have forums. You got to lay stuff out on the table. I think within our communities, everyone has their thought process and the way they think things should be, but they're keeping it to themselves. Or they're only speaking this to the people that are like-minded with themselves. We got to get past that. And I think, you know, as you can see, Trump, you got to make people uncomfortable. You know, just like we were talking about before, as crazy as it is to me, my mindset, we needed to have a president like this. We needed for this wound to be wide open. You know, we're not going to know the remedy or be able to fix it until it's out there, out in the open, and we know exactly what we're dealing with. I think now, even if you don't like it, I think we know exactly what we've been dealing with now, you know, and it's on Front Street. And I think that's a big thing about it, putting things out there so everyone can be aware, and then let's dive into it and see what we can do to fix these problems. And just like we said, I was talking about before, until we address that we have a problem, how are we going to ever fix it?
That's a major, that's exactly the point. Because we've been band-aiding this since the 60s. And once you rip off that Band-Aid, we're going to see what this wound is really about. We're either going to pour salt in it, or we're going to put some Neosporin on it and try to heal it. We got to figure out what that's going to be. Do you, at this point, feel that there is, how can I say this? Do you feel like we've made progression at this point with everything that we've been doing? Because let's take it back a little bit. Some of the marches that we went to were rough. I remember going to one march that we went to. We were taking some photos. I was at, and it was in Cresskill, New Jersey, and it was the first time I really faced like a real opposition, because we walked against a Trump rally. That was disguised as a Blue Lives Matter rally, which never needed to ever. No one ever said anything Blue Lives didn't matter. But all of a sudden, because we say this matters, Black Lives Matter, now there's a problem. But I digress. I remember going up against that and seeing the level of disrespect and levels of hate that came out of the spewing came out of their lives. during these rallies and these marches, did you guys come up against any oppositions? Did you guys see that opposition? Did you guys see it up front and personal?
I mean, I did years ago, and to be honest, I can't say that recently I have, other than like the police officers looking mean, you know, and frowning their faces, that sort of thing. But no one has blatantly come out and has,
not even on social media, anything of that nature?
Not really. I mean, well, behind closed doors, when I was in a BLM mural committee meeting with the mayor and deputy mayor and Natach, he said something that was like grotesque, definitely out of line for a black woman or a black person, and I'll put it out there on Front Street. I mean, we were talking about the mural and the fact of the matter of them not wanting Philip Pannell's name to go on the mural. And he said, okay, the deputy mayor said that it's like you take the low-hanging fruit and you reach for the low-hanging fruit, and then you pick that fruit, and then you pick the fruit that's next to the low-hanging fruit. And I'm like, I wasn't the only black woman on the phone, Yeah, he literally said that. Jewish deputy mayor guy from Teaneck. I'm not even going to give him credit and say his name. And, in that moment on the phone, I was like, wow, like, did he actually just say this? And no one else is going to say anything? So I said something. I said, first of all, I'm a black woman first, and I told him that. And I said, don't you ever say anything like that about any low-hanging fruit, anything hanging from a tree.
Yes.
You should never put that into
you can't be
any
that
type
tone
of
deaf. You
conversation
can't be that tone
with
deaf.
a black person.
No,
Like,
levels
are
of
you
disrespect.
serious?
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, it's like telling a Jewish person, which he is, something about the Holocaust and referencing Hitler, saying something like, to that effect. I was just totally crushed. And I said, don't you ever disrespect any black person like that, And he was like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, totally out of line, but just oblivious to the fact that he was out of line.
And that's a very...
And he's in office. You know what I'm
Just
saying?
think
So
about
can
it.
you only think about...
These are elected officials.
That's what I'm saying. They're elected officials talking like this, So that blew my mind. And then that made me want to, like, get out there even more and, like, okay, what more can I do? To not only expose these people, but actually get them out of the office. We need them out of there.
That's levels of disrespect is ridiculous. Like, I can't believe that someone would actually say that out loud. That level of tone deaf is not unheard of, but it's ridiculous.
It really
is ridiculous. Now, Ains, I know for you, the first time I really caught on to you you caught the first full-fledged opposition in the flesh was in Fairlawn, if I'm not mistaken. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard about
Fairlawn.
that too.
Yeah, and it was in Fairlawn. I remember seeing it because, the one thing, social media is a gift and a curse. It leads to all these conspiracy theories. People think the earth is flat. Oh, we're trying to, they lead to what happened in the Capitol building with the coup and them trying to go. And even, I wanted to speak to this. The media sometimes tries to paint them as what were they, they're not terrorists. They were protesters. Don't you ever compare them to us.
No, at all.
That ain't us.
At all.
That's got nothing to do with us. They are not protesting anything. They were insurrectionists, and they were trying to overthrow a government. They literally had plans to take people who were voted to higher seats of office and kidnap them. Hostages. But
and they still made excuses for that.
Yeah, but we're just in the streets trying to fight for the lives and the betterment of our people. But I digress. I look at it as like that when you did that on live and you were there and you were out there on live, it was a lot. It was a lot because I remember you were getting pulled back by our fellow people that were there. What was that like for you to see that level of visual like that in the flesh? Because what you got right there with him right there is overt. He didn't even know he was doing it. They were intentional.
Yeah, Fairlawn was that probably since I started protesting, that might have been probably my first really rough day where I had some opposition. And I remember on our way, walking down in front of the municipal building, you had people in cars, Trump flags, pickup trucks, yelling, screaming at us before we even got to our destination. So by the time we got to our point, we were already knowing what we were into. So everyone was kind of already riled up because on our way walking to where we were getting harassed.
That's crazy.
Screamed on. Then when we got there, you know, we had the Fair Lawn Police. I think there was Bergen County Sheriff out there too. And they had a big line.
This is Fair Lawn, New Jersey, for everyone who's watching at home.
Big line between the protesters and the Trump.
There were also Clifton police. There was
was
quite a few forces out there.
Mm-hmm.
But they were only focused on us.
Right.
Yeah.
I saw
You
that.
know, to the point where if we moved off the sidewalk, they wanted to arrest us.
I think I
You know?
called you that
Yes.
day, and I was on my way. And my not to interject
Yes.
really
No, go
quick,
ahead.
but my
You go.
mom was like, "No, I don't want you to go," and I'm like, "Ma, I gotta go and support, you know, the movement, especially support
everything
you."
was fresh,
and I
yeah.
called you, and remember, I think like I get these premonitions and visions, and I had a vision that something had happened to you. Remember, and I was called,
Yep,
and you
I
was like,
remember.
"No, sis, I'm okay. Nothing
It was
happened."
crazy.
And this was like right before all of that happened, and I was like, "Just be careful."
It was crazy, and it was so emotional. But what stood out to me that day, and it'll forever stand out to me, is looking across the street, and as a teacher, as a parent, to see little kids like my son, probably 7 to 8 years old, giving me the middle finger. That hurt. Little kids that I could be teaching, I could be helping, that I've helped in my lifetime, are giving me the middle finger with their parents and everything standing right there next to them, smiling. That's what bothered me the most.
Yeah.
To know that they condoned this type of behavior.
Right.
And our problem is that this behavior, now their kids are doing the same thing. So what is that for my son's future?
Right.
He's going to have to deal with these same kids that are giving me the middle finger down the line.
And it's ridiculous because you never think in Fair Lawn, New Jersey, like it's right there. For those who don't know, where we grew up with Teaneck, Englewood, Hackensack area, Fair Lawn is not far, for those who don't know. And Fair Lawn, New Jersey, where we are, we're all within the same county distance. Most of us are no more than 10, 15 miles from each other. So the overlap is overlap. It's always there, you know, overtly or in your face. It's there. And for you to go up against that so early, because this is very early. This is early. It takes a lot to understand, like, okay, this is how it's going down. This is the way it's going to happen at this point. I remember here, where we are right now, I remember going out on a rally and having to see that myself when I was out there and how crazy it was to be out there. And we had pushback. And it wasn't good. I commend you both for taking the time out to do this and to stand out there and actually put yourselves on the line, because you're essentially putting your careers and everything online. You know, I'm here documenting it, and I'm building something there, but you guys are putting your necks on the line, more so than even myself. So I commend you guys for doing that. And I am sorry that you guys had to deal with those kind of things up frontly, and sorry that the kids are being influenced to do that. You know, it shames me to know that that's actually happening. But speaking of the kids and speaking of, you know, future things that to do with, where do you see the movement going, and how do you think its effects is going to be long term?
Right now, for me, I'm entrenched deep, so the movement's not going anywhere fast. And as far as my involvement, now I got an assault charge in Englewood Police Station.
Yeah, I wasn't even going to bring that up.
I can't. Unlike some people that come around, I can't just weasel my way back out of this. I'm committed to the end, and I definitely think we're headed in the right direction, because we got to pick up from that time we've been just kind of complacent and just thinking we've made it already, or we've gotten to that point. I think we still got a long way to go, but I think the work we're doing now and the changeover, you know, with our presidency, I'm hoping within the next 4 years, we might not get everything we need, but we'll see the pipeline and the transition for us to get the things that we've been asking for, you know. So
Very true.
I'm being hopeful, and at the end of the day, you got to have faith. You got to have faith.
Yes.
You got to have faith. And that's one thing our ancestors always relied on. And that's something we still have to hone in today. We must stay strong. We must stay vigilant. And sometimes you can't see the step ahead. It might be dark, but we got to trust and have faith that when we take that step forward, we're going to be landing on solid ground.
I 100% agree with exactly what you said right there, because it is, this is faith, you know. It's faith that we're doing this show. It's faith that I put this book out. There's faith that we're here, you know. It's just faith that we, as a people, can still move forward. Because I don't care what nobody says. This is my country just as much as anyone else's. My people died on foreign lands for this country, just like anybody else's people died.
Absolutely.
And we died to put this country where it is. I know we were never meant to be the people that were for the riches. We were supposed to just be the burden bearers of this country. But I don't care. Those days have changed. It's a changeover now. It's time to move forward. Natacha, as yourself, now you're a mom of a man who's 21 years old. Young man. He's in the thick. You're a father as well. Your children are still sort of young. Am I correct? Yes. So their futures are intertwined. They are, you know, what's going to lead next. What kind of advice would you give to young mothers who are raising their children in this time? And what kind of advice would you give to their kids as well?
I would tell them to never give up, to remain steadfast in who they are. You know, if they're not in a position to know who they are right now, that's okay too. You know, just remain true to who you really, truly, you know, truly are. You know, that's the main thing. And then you just go from there. You gradually grow from there. Young mothers, I would tell them to talk to their children as much as you possibly can talk to them. Keep it real, you know. This world is like a dog-eat-dog world. It always has been, you know. It's like sex, money, and drugs. That's all that really matters in the world we live in, unfortunately. And I'm putting it out there. That's how I feel. That's how I felt back in the 80s. That's how I feel now in 2021. So with that being said, and we know this, you know, not to say expose that to your, you know, allow your children to be exposed to it, but you need to talk to them about it so that they will know, you know, what they're facing. And with regards to the police and all of these killings, I would say don't, know your rights.
Yes.
Never, don't be afraid of the police, because some police officers who abuse their power, they would prey on people like that, you know. So my son is not to the point where he's knowledgeable of that. You know, I've been keeping it real with my son since he's been in the womb. He's known about his Uncle Philip since he was in my womb. You know, so just coming out and now that he's 21, he's just grasping on to the fact of what he's seen me do for practically all his life. You know, before it was just oh, Ma, I don't want to do that. Oh, yeah, no, Ma, you're going to a rally. Oh, Ma, I know you're going to speak at something about Uncle Philip. And everything was like Uncle Philip. But it wasn't until maybe a few years ago, my son was he really came to me and was Ma, you know, I never told you this, but I don't like it when you refer to me as I remind you of my Uncle Philip, because it makes me upset and it makes me sad. It gives me all these mixed emotions because I never got a chance to meet him.
Wow.
So it's I'm hearing what the news and what he's read about, what the media portrayed his Uncle Philip as, and then he hears about me and my mom talk about him, or the family or people in the public talks about him, and then he comes with his own realization of who he really was. So that makes him upset. But now he's 21 and he sees the world for what it is. It just made him stronger, you know.
That's a good thing that he's able to be resilient.
Yeah,
that's a testament to you as a mother and a parent. You know what I mean? That's Ains, you're a father. You know, you're a father. You're a black man, you know what I mean, who's a father. Tell me, like I asked Natacha, tell me what your advice would be to a young black father. And what kind of advice would you give to a child at this point, if you had a 20-year-old?
My advice would be self-love. Self-love. You know, growing up in a system where when you look at yourself in the mirror, you're not the majority. When you look at the TV commercials, they don't represent you. When you look at pretty much all the products that in this country, they don't represent you. And, you know, we grew up with the feeling that we're not important, we're not special, you know, and that's the thing, and that's what I've been big on my kids, you know. I gotta let my kids know how special they are. They gotta love themselves. We don't love ourselves enough, and that's what this system has done to us. We don't love ourselves, and we don't love each other enough, and we don't appreciate each other, and we don't appreciate us because we don't know our history. Our youth don't know how great we are. And I've taken that time to learn that stuff, and that's why education and knowledge is key. Because if you don't know how great we are, how could you appreciate yourself?
Knowledge is power.
If you don't know you're from kings and queens, how are you gonna know how to act that way?
Right.
You know? So to me, the knowledge, that's the most important thing in us learning. And I would tell any father, just make sure your kids learn the correct history. And we don't need the school system to dictate that. We have control over that.
I like that.
And
That's
this
true.
is why higher education is important, because if we don't get to that level, how are we going to expose our kids to that? You got to know better to do better,
Yes,
right?
Yes.
So that's the first step. And love. I don't think we love ourselves enough.
Yeah. There is a power in love that is unspoken, and it's there. And when we love ourselves and love our culture more, it's super empowered. We got to be more empowered about letting our black women be who they are, and not trying to stop trying to make them look like what we think they should look like, and let our black men have community. Let us have community, and we don't always, just because black men want to have community with their friends does not mean they're toxic. They just want to have community and have something, because no one can really understand my plight or who I am other than a man who is black. You know what I mean? Or someone who has grown up in that system. They won't fully understand my plight, black or brown. You know, so I get that. Now, in time, you learn that time always moves forward. Things move in a forward position. So here we are, 2021. That year is over with. 2020 is over with. You move into a new year, a new time in your life. Tell me what 2021 holds for you guys. What do you think this year holds for you guys? We're moving into a new place, a new beginning. For yourselves and for what you see, where are you right now? And where do you see things happening for you? What do you got planned for this year?
Wow, 2021 for me this year, I feel like it's gonna be one of the most powerful years of my life, and I'm speaking that into existence for us all.
Yes.
Everyone that's sitting on this couch today is gonna be very powerful for us. I mean, you have your book, Ains, you have the movement, and you grown in that. Me personally, I have the movement as well. I have a production company that I've been working with for the past almost 2.5, 3 years, that's based out in Cali, called Psycho Films. They're working on a documentary about my brother, and I'm thinking about getting into politics, local politics. Very serious about that. And I'm going to go full-fledged. And even if I don't win, and I'm putting this out here, not to speak it into existence that I won't win, because I could be like a Donald Trump.
win.
And not think I'm going to win and be like, oh, shit, what did I get myself into?
I don't even want to mention that dude's name, but I get it.
One thing about Trump that I can respect is he always remains true to who he is. That's about it.
Okay.
I mean, even though he's a narcissist, and I can go down the line of what I think he is.
He is what he is.
He is what he is, and he stay true to that.
Yeah.
You know,
Change his
and
stripes.
you got to respect that.
Yeah, that I can
in a
respect.
person. So I look forward to getting more into politics and encouraging young people of my age, Generation X, all day long, to get more involved.
Yeah.
And by the end of the year, I'm looking to start promoting a book that both my mom and I are writing.
God blessings.
So,
That's good blessings right there. That is dope.
I'm not going to speak anything else.
Okay.
I have a whole other list.
You just working with God up there, knowing that he
I took the LSTAT, so I'm waiting on my scores. So I'm planning on
Good clap for
starting
that.
law school
That's
this
dope.
year as well.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So, I mean, the endless possibilities, and I hope to inspire people that to see me doing it at 44 And just imagine if my son just wakes up next year and be like, Ma, you know, I want to go to law school. I want to do
Right
this,
now.
Ma. At 22, 23,
Yes.
by the time he gets 44, how powerful he would be. You know, I wish I had this in me when I was in my 20s, but unfortunately, I was grappling, you know, all the stuff that I was going through at that time in my 20s and then trying to find myself. But I'm here and I'm doing it now. So,
And you had a very positive
so-
outlook for the 2021 because
Right.
that's where we got to be. We have to stay
Yeah.
positive.
Yeah,
Just stay
definitely.
positive
So-
in a place.
Anything I could do to help you grow, Kings, I'm here. I'm
Nice.
with it.
We're gonna talk about
you're,
it.
You're doing it
So-
already. You're already helping. Trust me.
And Ains and yourself?
With what's been going on, I try not to nowadays look too far ahead.
Yeah.
You know, but I've thought about, you know, maybe going into politics a little bit. It's still up in the air a little bit because I just feel like what it represents is not really what I represent normally, but we still have to get to that point where we need like-minded people like myself, you know, to really make change. It's gonna take, you know, somebody like Natacha, somebody like me, you know, to really get behind those closed doors and really stick up and stand up for our people.
Facts.
You know, so to me, if that's what I have to do to make change, if that's something I need to do for my people and it's a good thing, I'm gonna do it. You know, it's not something I've been thinking about 20 years ago, I'm gonna be a politician or anything,
Right,
but
no.
things change, you know, and there's growth.
Right.
You know, if this is a part of my growth, this is what a part of God's plan for me, well, so be it. You know, I'm not intimidated by none of it. You know, it's just certain things morally, you know, with myself that when I think about politics and that rubs me the wrong way. But as far as making change, if that's what I need to do and there's an opportunity for a person like me to do that, to help, why not?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why not? That's what it's all about.
I agree
you know?
with that. I think that the outlook that you both have right now about politics and putting more brown and black faces up there for our people is super important. I think that's dope that you guys have grown to that point. Like I said, that's why I started with this whole conversation. We started with what was it like before the pandemic and going into this pandemic, because this was unforeseen. You're not the same person because you go through things that changes you. Each time you go through a cycle of a year, your life will change, and hopefully you grow and won't, you know, become someone who is digressing backwards. You're progressing forward. And that's the most important thing. That's what I really wanted to show here. I wanted to make sure that people see that we're growing as a people. It's just not going to be the growth that we're going to see immediate. You know, so I really want to thank you guys for coming on the show today. I
Thank you for
truly
having me.
appreciate you
thank you
guys.
for having me.
And just tell them where they can find you, where they can get to know you, what's going on as far as like anything that projects or anything you have going up until you just talked about a book and you're working and there's a documentary being filmed that was already filmed for your brother and for your family. But where can they find you if they want to come look? And you didn't tell us about your show, but
I know. I didn't wanna
but let people
mix
know.
the two.
Let people know
Yeah.
where they can find you and what they look forward to.
Natacha Pannell. You can find me on Instagram at Natacha_loves. And Natasha spelled with a C, CHA _loves. And I have a podcast as well, The Natasha Knowles Show, on Instagram and Facebook. And on Facebook, I'm under Natach Pannell.
Okay. All right. All right. And yourself, Ains?
So on Instagram, under Minott Athletics, MINOTT Athletics, and my other handle is Heal the World 1238, which I created. Which that's my little organization. I'm trying to turn that into a nonprofit in the future. So that's Heal the World 1238 on IG and Minott Athletics. So you can find me there, and just for future references, just. If you know people out there.
And in the park. In the streets.
Yeah.
You can find brother in the streets
Yeah.
every Saturday.
Active is active.
Saturday,
Yeah.
1 o'clock. I've been
McKay
making
Park.
it.
When they say someone's going to get active, this boy gets active.
Okay.
All right? We're going to get active. You know what I mean? That's period, point blank.
That's powerful.
Yeah, man.
What you're
Consistency.
doing.
Yeah, man.
Consistency. So
Definitely.
even if you don't see me every day, you show up to McKay Park on a Saturday at 1 p.m., more than likely I'll be out there.
That's right.
All right, so I'm
That's
easy
right.
to find.
Talking and powwowing with the tribe, man, for real.
Yeah.
I want want to really say thank you again for you guys coming on. Make sure that all of you guys go out and follow their handles, check them out, support them. And thank you again for watching this show, man. I appreciate everyone. And yeah, here we are, man, 2021, and we're moving in a good direction, man. So everyone take care, be safe, make sure you check everything out, and I'm out of here. Peace.
No trust in police on these streets. No justice, no peace on these streets. No trust in police on these streets. There's no justice, no peace on these streets. We live in divided states of America. We die in divided states of America. We live in divided states of America. We die in divided states of America.